The Boston Celtics are officially done with the NBA regular season for the 2023-24 timeline, but now they're heading into the 2024 NBA playoffs. They did clinch the number one Eastern Conference seed. They clinched that on March 15th, and they also have home court advantage throughout the playoffs until they are to possibly reach the NBA Finals. So on today's show, we're going to break down the four possible teams the Boston Celtics could see on Sunday during the first round of the NBA playoffs. Before we get into any of that, I need you guys to be in the know with everything Boston Celtics. And how do you do that? Smitty and I are going to take care of all the work. We've got everything that you may need between news and rumors, and we also go live for every single Boston Celtics basketball game. All you guys have to do is to hit that subscribe button, and we are going to make sure you know everything about your favorite NBA team. We're looking at potential opponents on this show the Celtics could be facing once the NBA play-in games are over with. This is looking like the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th seed in the NBA Western Conference. Of course, these two teams, the 9th and 10th, will play each other, 7th and 8th, and then you're going to have the winner versus the loser of each bracket, and then, of course, that's going to determine the 7th and 8th seeding in the NBA Eastern Conference. We're looking at the 76ers, the Miami Heat, Chicago Bulls, and Atlanta Hawks. So, on this show, we are going to rank those four teams from least to most formidable and which team the Boston Celtics should want to see in the first round and which team they should not want to see in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Before I jump into any of that, I want to make sure you guys are hip to the number one daily fantasy sports app in America right now. They are a sponsor of Celtics today. It is Prize Picks, and I want to tell you that Smitty and I have been playing Prize Picks way before they became a sponsor because it is the easiest and most fun way to play Prize Picks. Just go ahead and pick more or less on a player's projected stats, and that's how you are going to win up to 100 times your money on any entry with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, the Masters entries today on Prize Picks. It has something for every sports fan. You can go from basketball to hockey to League of Legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron. You can pick Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, Jude Bellingham, all in the same entry. Here are the games that were at stake earlier today. Peyton Pritchard, more than 22.5 points. Check. He had about 38, I believe. A new career high for PP. Luke Cornett, less than a steal. It actually worked. Luke Cornett did not get a steal in today's ballgame. Then Kelly Oubre Jr. to have more than 17.5 points. I do not believe that was even close to hitting. But these are Smitty's picks, and that's why you play, to test out your skill. Just go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use that promo code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It is truly that easy. Let's go on ahead and focus on the 9th and 10th seed in the NBA Eastern Conference. And let's be real here for a second. I understand the Boston Celtics are on a very high pedestal right now, being the number one team, but the Bulls and Hawks are a tier below the 7 and 8 seeds right now. And unfortunately, with these two matchups, it's probably destined that they're going to get knocked out. Probably both, but if not, at least one of them. It's very intriguing to see if the Hawks or the Bulls will make it past the Miami Heat and the 76ers. And that's where Spinny and I are like, we just don't see it. We don't see the resources that they have in order to really make it out of the NBA play-ins. But crazier things have happened. But the reason why we're saying this is because when you look at players to watch here for the Chicago Bulls, I just don't see that guy. Of course, we know Zach LaVine has been out with a season-ending injury. DeMar DeRozan, who was once a spark for the Chicago Bulls, has now turned into a very dull light that you should probably change the bulb. He just hasn't really been able to give the Bulls what they need this season. Vooch, a very great 5 for the Chicago Bulls, but that can only bring you so far. Kobe White is going to be incredible in the NBA, but doesn't have the resources that he needs. Ayo Dosunmu and Alex Caruso, of course, on the defensive side of the ball. They do provide a lot of aspect there, but when you look at the team stats here, they're 22nd in the NBA in points per game. The Boston Celtics would easily eat that up, not including 14th in rebounding per game, 43.8. The Boston Celtics right now are second. You got 23rd in assists per game at 25, tied for 17th, tied for 20th in net rating. These kind of standings in the NBA just aren't really competing with the number one team in the Eastern Conference right now, which just truly makes me think that even with the Chicago Bulls' best players out on the floor, it's just not going to be enough when you've got the best 6 starters in the NBA in one rotation with the Boston Celtics. But I will tell you this about the Chicago Bulls. They are going to give it their all. They are a very scrappy group. They are very pesky. But unfortunately, they don't have an identity. They have limited access to resources beyond their measures, and they're just very careless when it comes to the basketball, which makes me think that when you've been searching for an identity all season long, you're not going to find it in the play-in game. And it also brings me to believe the Atlanta Hawks would also probably not make it past that play-in round just because they're also lacking that self-identity. Yes, the Hawks did beat the Boston Celtics back-to-back, which we'll touch on in just a few moments. But the players to watch, obviously, Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, who really haven't been playing well together this season. You guys remember the trade rumors that were lingering for months for DeJounte Murray. You got Bogdanovich. He was the Achilles heel of the Boston Celtics when we played him on that back-to-back road game in Atlanta. Jalen Johnson, who we actually did not get to face in that road game. He was out with an injury. And then DeAndre Hunter, who is shaping up to be a very fine 3-and-D type of player in Atlanta. I expect to see him there for quite some time. So they do have more resources than the Chicago Bulls, but I'm still not that worried about them making it out of the play-ins. I think the 76ers or the Miami Heat will take care of them for us. They are fourth in the NBA in points per game. Why? Because of those two first players. You got Trae Young and you got DeJounte Murray. Bogdanovich and DeAndre Hunter are not players you should also sleep on as well. They do remind me of the Miami Heat with how many offensive weapons that they have, but they're only 6th in rebounding. Clint Capella is a great rebounder in the paint. 17th in assists. Trae Young doesn't pass the ball as nearly as much as he should. Field goal percentage, 46.6%. Not that great for the Atlanta Hawks, who probably take upwards of a lot of shots a game, and the net rating is 17th. Once again, they're going to have a really tough game if they end up being the winner or the loser out of that 9th and 10th seed going up against Joel Embiid or Jimmy Butler. But the Hawks do play tough, and they play the Boston Celtics tough, which is why you really want the Heat and the 76ers to take care of the Hawks for you. Because Atlanta, they show up when it comes to Boston. Just like every other team in the NBA should, but we saw what they did to us. They took us into overtime when they played back-to-back in Atlanta on Monday and a Thursday. Of course, that was a very long road game for the Celtics. You can make up numerous excuses, whatever you want, but the fact is the Hawks did beat us, and they're going to try and do that again if they do make it past the play-ins and face us in the first round. But they'll have trouble guarding Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, Bogdanovich. They really will, but they'll need all hands on deck, which is making me wonder, do the Boston Celtics want to play the Chicago Bulls or the Atlanta Hawks if one of those teams make it through the play-in? So I want you guys to go on ahead and pick for me. Type ATL if you want the Atlanta Hawks. Type CHI if you want the Chicago Bulls in the first round of the NBA playoffs. You want one of these teams to come through. Pick one of those players on who you'd rather take. Although Smitty and I just don't believe either of these teams are going to make it through. Why? Because let's talk about some actual contenders in the play-in game, right? The 76ers and the Miami Heat. Now, personally, Smitty and I are on different pages here. Personally, I want one of these teams in the first round. I think you've got a revenge gate here, and I think you can finally put an end to the Philly-Boston rivalry that they've had and just shut them up for good. But Smitty wants a Chicago or an Atlanta for an easier first round, per se. If I'm wrong, please correct me, Smitty, but let's talk about the actual contenders here, starting off with the revenge game that would come with the number 8 seed in the Heat. Miami actually has our number, and that's what's kind of tough. But they're not on a hot streak currently, and they do look a lot worse than they did in 2023. They have dealt with a lot of injuries this year. Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler, they have all been on the injury report for an extensive length of time. There is no more Kyle Lowry. Now it's Terry Rozier, which he has made the Heat better, but maybe not as much as everybody thought he was going to when this trade originally happened. I will point out that Jimmy Buckets does come out to play in the NBA playoffs. That's what he's known for, and they do have other resources like a Caleb Martin, who popped off for no reason to us against the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals last year, which we really don't want to have a repeat of that. But their numbers, when you look at it, they personally look a lot like the Chicago Bulls in terms of rankings in the NBA. You've got 110, 27th out of 30 teams in the NBA. Rebounds per game with Bam, you'd think that'd be a lot higher, but it's not, and I don't think Bam can take a tag team of KP and Al Horford at the 4 and 5. Assists per game tied for 18th. They're 23rd in field goal percentage. Once again, with that many shooters, you'd think that field goal percentage would be a lot higher than what it is, and their net rating is 16th percent. But we're talking about the defensive side of ball real quick. The Miami Heat has known to be extremely scrappy and skillful on the defensive side of the ball going up against the Boston Celtics. They have the NBA's number 2 defense over the last 10 games. And we all know being number 1 in the Eastern Conference is great. It's been fun. We've had a great ride. But what really matters is how you're playing in April and in May. And as of right now, the Miami Heat are not backing down. They're not giving up. Do not take the eighth seed lightly, as we learned from the Miami Heat last year. So obviously they're still improving, and it's going to be a tough matchup if we do get the Heat in the first round. So with that being said, with one of those two teams more than likely going to come out of the NBA Eastern Conference play-in, are you worried about the Miami Heat in the playoffs? Type Y for yes, type in for no. I'm going to go with yes, just because it's not one of those worries where it keeps me up at night, but it's worrisome because it's a rivalry. It's Jimmy Buckets, what happened last year, but I do have faith that the Boston Celtics will want that revenge, and they're going to play really good ball against a contender like that. What another contender they could possibly play great ball against is Philadelphia, who they had Joel Embiid not play today, probably for more precautionary than anything, but without Joel Embiid, they really don't have the resources to take down the Boston Celtics, even though Tyrese Maxey is a man that can do some damage. But we have the 76ers number in Smitty's opinion. This is what we talked about earlier. Joel Embiid, like I said, has been dealing with injury for majority of this season. You take out Embiid, they do not have what it takes to take down the Boston Celtics. Respectfully, they obviously could in a 7-game series. Tyrese Maxey has become one of my favorite point guards to watch in the NBA. Kelly Oubre, who has apparently been playing phenomenal per Jake Chipper and Chase Sr. of Chat Sports. Buddy Hield, I think personally that's a great addition. Buddy Hield always got buckets against us when he played for the Pacers, and now he took it to a rivalry in Philly. And Tobias Harris, who has not had the season that we thought we were going to see from Tobias Harris. But the numbers, they're pretty solid. 14th in points per game. Their rebounding is up there. It could be a lot higher if Joel was playing majority of the season. So their net rating, though, however, 10th in the NBA. The top 10 for the net rating is something I would definitely be looking at. I think assists and field goal percentage, that's going to come a little bit easier in the postseason, especially when you're playing the same team back-to-back. So it's going to be very interesting to see what this matchup would look like in a first round, because in my opinion, the Celtics and 76ers is more of a Eastern Conference Finals matchup. Maybe in previous years, not so much this year, but it would be a very long series. We saw this last season. 7 games it took to beat Philly to get past the semifinals. And with Joel Embiid being healthy and playing next to Tyrese Maxey, who was playing the best ball of his career, he has different resources this year. It would be tough. But Philly is 31-8 with a record of Joel Embiid playing. So we know that the MVP, the reigning MVP, makes a difference in Philadelphia. Derek White recently just said in a podcast, I love playing Philly, but more importantly, I love beating Philly. I love beating Philly on the road. So that does add a little bit more edge to our team, which is why I'm not nearly as worried about taking on the 76ers in the postseason, but this is probably going to be the best 76ers team we have seen in the last decade, taking on the Boston Celtics. So overall, I'm not worried about these teams knocking off Boston in the first round. I'm not. I have more faith in Jason Tatum than I have faith in probably anybody in my life. But Boston's top 6 haven't looked their best. We don't know why that's happening. You've got Jaylen Brown over here saying we're going to nip it in the bud. You've got Pinga saying, I bet we show up. And you've got Jason Tatum saying we're not perfect. I'm getting mixed messages here from the 3 leaders that have put the Boston Celtics on a pedestal. So I'm hoping this top 6 have really enjoyed their break, because now it's go time. And I do not see the Miami Heat, Philadelphia 76ers, the Atlanta Hawks, or the Chicago Bulls knocking out the Boston Celtics in the first round. Nobody screen record this and use it against me if it does actually happen. But nonetheless, anything is possible. We already know that. But I do believe the Boston Celtics will make their journey to the NBA Finals this season, but it does start with round 1. Who do you think the Boston Celtics first round matchup will be? It could be the Sixers, the Heat, the Hawks, the Bulls. Go on ahead and type down below, and while you guys are at it, like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't want you guys to be the only fan in Boston that doesn't know what's going on with the Celtics. I just can't see that going over well. So, thankfully, Smitty and I work day in and day out, even on our off days, to provide news and rumors and updates for you, the Boston Celtics fan, for free. All you guys have to do to help us out, hit that sub button.